Hi class. Today we're doing some basic Garageband, how to open up a Garageband file and have various sound sources, both playing live, playing some Midi instruments, playing loops, combining it all into one large Garageband file, how to name it on your desktop, how to change the name, how to export it as an MP3, and how to compress a Garageband file into a zip file. So we're going to do a project where we're going to play some first. So either you're going to play electric guitar or bass, we're assuming, and you're going to play either through your interface if you have some sort of digital audio interface, or you can plug directly into the computer. We're going to say playing guitar, plug my guitar into my interface. I'm going to choose this. And the default is that it's called My Song. So we'll leave it at that, and then I'll show you how to change that later. So the first thing that comes up is this clean combo sound. Now when we use any of the amp simulations in GarageBand, just know that you can change that at any time. You're not actually recording the sound of the amp simulator. That this is there's a whole variety of sounds you can change after you record it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my preferences. I'm going to go into Audio Midi. I'm selecting my output right now to be my laptop so that you can hear it. And my input is my DigiDesign M box that shows up. You should have your audio interface plugged in before you start GarageBand. So that's looking good. And then I'm going to go to General and I'm going to say I want a metronome and I want to click during recording. So that would be really good for me to have a metronome going. And in fact, here's my controls from a metronome, and I'm going to select that I have a count in. It's going to give me one whole measure. Now, I have my guitar plugged into my interface and I'm playing, and in fact I see some green bars going here showing that I'm playing, but I can't hear it. Well, we're going to go over to Edit, and then we see the back of the amp, and we're going to click on that. And then here we have this monitor. We're going to turn that to on, and we hear instantly there's the guitar. A clean combo is the first type of amp that comes in. We have all these different things, from just like totally ridiculous big stacks, serious overdrive, and I'm going to choose the smooth soul, sort of like that. But as I said, after you record, you could change this. You're not actually recording the amp sound, you're just recording actually your guitar sound, and you can choose to change the sound later. Now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to figure out the tempo for my project. Default is 120 beats per minute. That means 2 every second. I'm going to change this to maybe 96. I think that's going to be better for me. And I've selected 4/4. That's going to be important, especially for the count off and for loops that I choose that have your right time signature. So I'm ready to record. This is my record button. If that's not on, again, I'm not going to hear anything, and when I start getting multiple tracks, I have to choose which ones I'm recording. So I'm going to turn that back on. Alright, so I think I'm ready to record. Here's my record button. So if I'm just going to push that, here we go. We'll push. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now we have our guitar track. We've laid it down, and in fact we can see up here that we have a waveform that recorded. Now we're going to add some drums and we're going to add some bass. To add the drums, we have a variety of different ways. In another video I'll show you how to program the drums, but let's say we just wanted to get something up really quick and easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a drum loop, and I'm going to press this button here so that we can see this window coming out showing all our loops. We'll hit reset and we're going to say, let's see our drums. And in this list down here, we have hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of drum loops. Some of them, the green ones, are Midi drum loops, and we have a variety of those. All you have to do is click on it to hear it. It tells you the tempo that it originally was, as well as how many beats long is that loop. And then we have blue ones. These are actual recordings that people have made, and the audio is looped. We have all these whole variety of club beats. We have all sorts of affected drums. Some pretty cool stuff. But for our project, we're going to do just a basic rock beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to the Natural Drummer, and we have a whole bunch of natural drum kits. So I like Natural Drum Kit number 3. So once I've listened to this and decide that's the one I want, and all I need to do is drag this up here, and it's going to create a brand new track. And this is going to be a drum track of a loop. And you can see that over here it told us it's 8 beats long, and so now it shows that it's 2 measures, that's 8 beats, and even though it was originally recorded at 136, Garageband will automatically play it at the tempo that we want without changing the pitch. And then if we grab at the upper hand, we can make this go for as many measures as we want. And since our groove goes for 8 bars, I'll have it go for 8 bars, and then we have that last chord that's held. So now let's listen to that. And I have volume control here, so I can turn this drum down. That's working pretty good. I also have pan control if I want to put the guitar a little bit over to the right. Sometimes that can help out. So now we have our guitar that we've recorded, and now we have just added our drum kit, which is a loop. And you can also program in your own drum parts as well. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our final track. We're going to add a bass track, and we're going to go, we want a new instrument, new track, and now we can choose. And instead of using real guitar or a microphone, we use a software instrument this time. And that means that inside GarageBand there's all these different types of sounds that use Midi to trigger them. And so there's all sorts of synthesized sounds that are inside, some samples, some real. We have all these basic categories of instruments. The default is grand piano, and we can play. And now that's playing because I have my Oxygen 8 plugged in. If I unplug it, you're going to see a message. Now it's changed. And then if I plug it back in, you're going to see, again, here's a message that the MIDI is now changed. It's also showing the inputs on my Pro Tools plugin. So now I have this keyboard plugged in, and I'm triggering the grand piano sample. But I want bass, so I'm going to go over here to bass, and I have these basic styles of bass, and I can edit them, but I think I'm just going to go with the fingerstyle bass. Now, if I play this at the normal transposition, it's set at 0 on my Oxygen, that's going to be pretty high, and if I transpose it down to, that's beyond the range of a 4-string bass. But GarageBand doesn't know that. It'll play at any range that you want. So I typically, for bass, I put my transpose button, the octave, to -1, so that the low E on my keyboard, the 2-octave keyboard that I have, is in fact the low E that a 4-string bass plays. So now, as I'm playing on my Oxygen 8 here, we can see that there's level coming through here, and that I'm ready to record. And again, I have under my control my metronome and a count in so that I'll be able to hear it. I could turn the metronome off at this point and just have the count in, and then I'll be playing with the drums and my guitar track that are already there. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm ready. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now we have our whole track. Let's take a listen for a second. And that sounds pretty good. I do notice that my first note got somehow left off on the bass, so I can double click this, and if I want to go into the very beginning, I'll hit return, and now I can see what's called a piano roll style of editing, and here are all my notes. I can quantize them, and I can also add a note. If I press the Apple sign, then I can put in a note, and here's my D. I can hear that, and I want that at the beginning. That's great. I'm going to have my note, and in fact I'm going to change the velocity on that, make sure that pops out nice and loud. Now let's hear how we're going. I can even take a little peek in the score just to make sure all my notes look right, although I would never trust GarageBand to transcribe that correctly. There are loads of mistakes that it tends to make, but we're doing pretty good here. All right, this could be a point where if I wanted to mess around with my guitar sound and maybe choose a different amp, I could see if I wanted to, maybe make some other kind of sound. If I went to, like, say, surf sound, and I want to see what that sounds like. Change my volume. I haven't changed anything other than the sound that I'm using. I'm just changing the amp modeling that I'm using. But I like that smooth soul, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. And now I'm going to save this project. Let's make sure my volume is right again. So everything sounds pretty groovy here. I want to save this song now with a proper name. So let's go save as. I've been working on this project, but you know what? Now I'm going to give it a really good name. All right. So I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to do Command D, and I'm going to say that this is my Project 1, and I'm going to give my name so that all my projects have my name on them. When I hand them in, it's going to be all fine. And now I'm saving that on my desktop, and I have a GarageBand file that's going to be saved on my desktop. It says my name, Project 1. Alright, so we're doing pretty good there, but we want to bounce this down. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll over here till we see this little arrow, and we're going to pull this over to the end of our song. And right now our end of our song is going about there. And now I want to bounce down this to an audio file. You could send your GarageBand file to its teacher, but they'd probably prefer to have it bounce down. So what we're going to do is we're going to share this to our desktop. We're going to export song to disk, and we're going to say, yeah, let's do an MP3. And you can decide what quality MP3 that you can do it at. At 192, it's going to be pretty darn decent. So let's do this, and what it's going to do, it's going to turn your mix into an MP3. So we'll hit OK, and we're going to use the same name that we had before, and it's going to put it in the same place. Only this time, instead of being the GarageBand file, it's going to be an MP3 that can play in anybody's iTunes, and also very easy to email. Alright, so now let's take a look and see if that's there. And if we look over here, we see, yes, oh, there's an MP3 playable on iTunes. So let's click on that, make sure that we got our tune and that it sounds good and it is exactly what we want. And here we are. It's playing in iTunes. This sounds fine. Excellent. So now we know it's there. Now, if by chance a teacher asked you for the actual GarageBand file, they wanted to see how your recording was, you cannot send them this file because hidden on your computer are all the audio files, not right here. But we can send GarageBand files. What we'll do, we're going to select that. And when we go over here, we're going to compress that and zip it. And what's going to happen is it doesn't really change the size too much. Now this, if we get info, we'll see that this is 4.9 megs, just about the limit of what we can email. If we take this one, we'll see that it's slightly smaller, but what's more important is when you zip a GarageBand file, then all the audio, all the hidden files are all in the zip file, so that you could mail that. But let me stress again that most teachers would prefer you to send an MP3 and so that they can just open it up right in iTunes. And unless someone's expressly asked for your GarageBand file, I would always do it this way. So now you have it. We've recorded a project in GarageBand. We've used both a live instrument. We had electric guitar here. We used a loop, and so we did that feature of GarageBand. We also recorded using Midi and recorded a bass line. We adjusted our balances. We saved this and gave it a new name. We also bounced it down and made it an MP3, and I showed you how to zip it. And this will take you a long way for many, many of your projects. It's your basic go-to. There are many other features in GarageBand that you can use to edit even more, and we'll get into those in other projects.